Hello and welcome to the Modern Age. I am Mark, and I am today going to be discussing the Q&A that was on last night, Monday, 6th of March 2017, entitled Strikes, Sexual Assault, and Revenge Porn. The panelists were Lindy West, writer and producer, writer and performer, Mei Fong, journalist and writer, Thordis Elva, writer, journalist and public speaker, Faustina Agolley, TV host and producer, and Josephine Cashman, Indigenous lawyer and businesswoman. So, let's get them up right here. There they are. And one thing you may be noticing is that it is an all-female cast. This was a special edition of Q&A, and it was designed to be an all-female panel, which generated some controversy even before and afterwards, based on, I don't know, is this sexist, is it double standards, all these kinds of things. So Tony Jones actually brought this up in the episode, saying, why aren't there men asking questions? And the answer to that was there were no men who wanted to ask questions. So, but I also saw a Twitter, which is where I got this picture from, and I'll link to down below, saying, well, why didn't they get a female MC to replace Tony Jones for this episode? I don't know if it was a joke or not, but yeah, does he need to be there? I don't know, I'm pretty happy with Tony Jones, and I think he did a good job, because this episode to me was a really fantastic episode. As a man, as a straight white male, the important thing to me was to listen to... Well, this is a time as well. Okay, so this is obviously the time of the presidency of Donald Trump, and there is a lot of talk about his misogyny. Isn't he a misogynist? What does that mean for women? And so I guess that's part of why they wanted to do an all-female panel. And for me, it was fantastic to hear a diverse group of women discussing issues related mostly towards women at a time when a lot of women are really, I don't know, a lot of the women I know are feeling a lot of uncertainty about in this time, in the age of Trump, and in the age of, far right-wing nationalism and all these kinds of things, and pushing back against the political correctness and women's lib and feminism and all these kinds of things. So for me, it was fantastic. It was one of the best episodes I've seen. It was really enlightening. I was watching it with a friend, and we were both chatting to each other, and there's a part, I wanted to talk about it later actually, but there was a part where he's just saying to me, I don't understand, no, she's losing me, this doesn't make sense. And I was like, maybe you should just, the point of these TV shows is to just sort of stop and listen and, take in a diverse range of views rather than just saying, this is right, this isn't right. And for me as well, where, I think I get my information and my news from a diverse point, a diverse variety of sources, but it's really, really important to hear people speaking about the issues that are most important to them. So, yeah, this was just a fantastic episode. There'll be a link down below. Check it out if you haven't watched it. And I'll even say, in that spirit as well, as, the straight white man watching the panel show of women talking about women's issues, it does make things a little interesting for how I comment on things, and it really put into perspective how I view some issues versus how some of them may have viewed some issues, how women might view issues compared to how men view issues, and it was really fascinating, and they tackled some really powerful subjects, and I absolutely encourage everyone to watch it. So, what sort of subjects did they discuss? Well, they discussed Women's Day of Strike in response to Donald Trump. They discussed the topic of, is Donald Trump a misogynist? That sounds pretty interesting to listen to already, right? Forgiveness in education. Oh, I should say as well, this video is going to touch on quite a few sensitive topics, so just be aware of that as we go forward, because the next topic they discuss is forgiveness in education with regards to rape. They discussed the One China policy and revenge porn. So that sounds like a pretty interesting topic. Even if you're a right-wing person or you're sick of feminism and political correctness and all this kind of stuff, they're pretty interesting topics. And hear these differing point of views, even if it just makes you so angry and you just want to turn it off. give it a listen, engage with it, talk to other people about it, get their opinions. It's well worth it. This was a great episode. So let's start with straight away with there's two issues that mostly I want to talk about. I haven't even really planned what I want to say about, particularly about the second one, but there'll be a few issues and some fact checking that I'm going to do. So first of all, in regards to the Women's Day of Strike, Thordis, who is from Sweden, I hope it's Sweden, it might be Norway, I don't think it's necessarily relevant, but I feel really embarrassed that I'm forgetting it right now. I'm going to stick with Sweden, but no, Iceland. It's Iceland. Oh, okay, I remember now. So she brought up a 1975 Icelandic women's strike in which basically the majority of the female population of Iceland took a day of strike to show how important it was for Iceland's society and the economy. I'm going to post a link to the Wikipedia article down below. It's a real thing. It totally happened, and at least according to the Wikipedia and the sources that it cites, it was very effective, and it caused a great deal of political momentum. The next year was signed into law all kinds of issues, policies regarding equality. So that doesn't solve the issue of equality, but it's, a great impetus for that thing. So that thing, what a way to refer to it. Next was a really interesting topic. This is probably the most interesting topic, and I kind of wanted to make an individual video about it. I might just cut this section out of this video and make a separate one. But this is the question of, is Trump a misogynist? So I'm going to paraphrase the questioner from the audience, and I do want to say, check out the link if you don't believe me as well. But the tenor with which the question was intoned kind of got across this kind of smugness. So the question was, is Trump a misogynist? So Trump has recently signed in 2 new policies in support of helping women get into areas of STEM research, so get into employment and study in areas of STEM, which they are historically underrepresented in. So when he signed this bill, he was surrounded by women, and it's to promote women, so how can... That's not exactly how she said it, but she said, do you still think, or how can we still call him a misogynist when he's signed this bill promoting women and he was surrounded by women, right? And the intonation I picked up was, see, like, it was a woman saying this as well, but see, he's not a misogynist, this is the left overreacting, or this is, the women in general overreacting, or this is people overreacting, calling him a misogynist when he's not. See, this proves that he's not. Can we drop it? And the panel absolutely did not have a bar of it. So there's 2 things I want to discuss here. So first, I want to say that I thought the panel overall, they didn't really address the issue of the bills, because if Trump signed these bills, that's a good thing. Promoting equality is a good thing, and if Trump has done that, that's a good thing. But that doesn't exonerate him of responsibility for, perceived comments of misogyny and, his attitudes and other policies he may have implemented. So most of them, not all of them, I'm pretty sure at the end it was acknowledged, this sounds like a good thing, but most of them sort of ignored that and they're just like, he's a misogynist, women need to stand up, women need to stand together, which I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but I think it's kind of an ineffective argument. Somebody brought up the fact that he signed an executive order. This is one I didn't fact check, but I think it's kind of common knowledge. Check it out. Please Google it. I'm going to Google it after this, and I'll post a link down below if it's an executive order or not. But regardless, it's kind of all over the news that he's implementing a policy that is defunding organizations that provide women's health care, particularly with regard to abortion, all over the world, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So somebody brought that up, which is a huge issue. So if he does a good thing somewhere and a bad thing somewhere else, just because he does a good thing doesn't mean you can't call out the bad things. And if he has misogynistic attitudes towards women, you can still call out those things. Now, there's 2 things I want to talk about this issue. So first of all is... Alright, we'll start with women's healthcare and the importance it has on society. It's not even... So you can look at this from 2 points of view. So there's the empathetic side, there's the compassionate side, this is about empowering women and not having women be beholden to, these orders of patriarchy. So it's about giving them the choice, the power of their own body, the ability of them to control their reproductive rights, etc. And it's not just reproduction, but women's health in general. And that's a fantastic thing, right? I don't think many people can argue against that. But you can also look at it from a practical point of view. And so just I Googled benefits of women's reproductive health care, or something like that. And the very first hit I had, and there's tons of hits, there's tons of studies. This is the very first study I had. I've linked to it down below. Let me just bring it up. Which one is it? Oh, it's down the bottom. Let me bring it up, and I'm just going to read out the results section of the abstract. So this isn't the results, will be much longer. This is an abstract that's separated into a few sections, and this is the results. So this is basically a very brief summary. Let me read it. The existing literature indicates that healthier women and their children contribute to more productive and better educated societies. This study documents an extensive literature confirming that women's health is tied to long-term productivity. The development and economic performance of nations depend, in part, upon how each country protects and promotes the health of women, providing opportunities for deliberate family planning, healthy mothers before, during, and after childbirth, and the health and productivity of subsequent generations can catalyze a cycle of positive societal development. Basically, and you can look this up, it's good for the economy. It's not just good for the economy, it's great for the economy, it's imperative to the economy. Don't fuck with women's health. We should be promoting all kinds of health, but massively defunding organizations like, say, Planned Parenthood in America because it offers abortion, which, okay, I don't want to get into the abortion debate, but in my opinion, legal abortion is a very important policy, but the other benefits towards women's health that Planned Parenthood offers and these organizations offer are absolutely imperative to society. So that's one thing. That's something he has done. I didn't fact check it right now. I'm going to look for it, post a link down below. So the other thing is, and this is what I did fact check, is about these 2 policies he signed in. So Trump signed in these policies, therefore he's not a misogynist. Well, this is all going to be linked down below. Turns out that these 2 laws that he signed passed with a supermajority, and it would have been impossible for him to veto them. So he had to sign them. At least one of the bills, I'm pretty sure both of them, but at least one of the bills... Okay, so first of all, neither of the bills were written by Trump. And at least one of them was passed through the House before he even took office. And thirdly, the bills themselves are absolute fluff. So they didn't actually do anything. They didn't actually guarantee or do anything really to promote more women getting into areas of STEM. I'm going to link it down below. You can find the text of those bills. They didn't do anything. They removed a comma, they added a word, and then they added like a suggestion that we will promote equality. It wasn't some kind of legislation of how they will promote equality. It was just, it's absolute fluff. So the suggestion that him signing these bills means he's not a misogynist, that's fucking bullshit. So regardless of everything else, he might not be a misogynist. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. But these 2 bills are not the smoking gun that prove he is not a misogynist. Okay? Check out, the links are down below. Check them out. And so that was an interesting discussion, and yeah, I hope I provided some valuable input. So, oh, my notes just disappeared. Let's talk about the other really interesting area, and this is one where, as a man, this is actually the area where me and my friend, we were both chatting along as we were watching it, he didn't understand her perspective, whereas I felt I did. And this is about, I've lost the names now, Thordis telling her story about when she was raped as a 16-year-old. She was date raped by her boyfriend, an Australian boyfriend. And she didn't realize it at the time, and she carried this for about 9 years, and the influence that had on her life, and the impact that had on her life, and she told the story. And it was a really powerful story, but then she told how she contacted him. This is 9 years later. So she realized, this is the point, I believe, when she realized she was raped, and she contacted him, and he admitted it. He confessed, and he was apologetic and remorseful, and they continued a dialogue for years and years and years, and they ended up writing a book together about the experience, and now they're touring on a speaking tour. She even has TED Talks, so check out her TED Talk. So this is the point where my friend was telling me, I don't understand her position. How can she be talking to this guy? How can she be touring with him, speaking with him, trying to educate people about rape? So this is the point where I was like, I think this is the most valuable part of this for him was being able to hear that this is a perspective that other people have, that some women have. And listening to her, not necessarily fighting, but arguing, debating, and the other points of view of the other people on the panel was such a powerful experience. Everybody, if you haven't watched the episode, go watch it. And the differing views on what should take place. And so there was quite a bit of backlash from one person on the panel. I've forgotten her name right now, but if you watch it, you'll understand exactly who it is. I believe it's Lindy West, who was saying to people out there who experience this, don't contact the person who's done it. You should go to the police. And there's a whole kinds of procedures that make it much safer. And that was fantastic advice. So I'll even post links to websites that deal with this kind of thing if you want more information about it. So check down below. And the interesting perspectives here, that she was claiming that what she did was right for her. It allowed her to forgive him, but I really can't summarize it all. And so I really can't encourage you enough to watch the episode. I'll give it from my point of view, from as a man, the power of having a man discuss what he did. So I haven't seen the speaking tour or anything like that. I can just see the logic behind it, of having a man try to educate other men on the incident and how it happened and on the culture of it all. And I mean, how I can relate to it is, you know, when I was growing up, I was a disaffected young man, and I know that I very definitely objectified women. And how I would define that was that I never used to consider women's feelings when it came to the decisions I made. It was always just about me, and I would internalize everything and think, how can I say and do and act in ways that allow me to get what I want without being considerate of the women, or the woman involved, the other person involved. And it was a real revelation to me when I learned about feminism. I learned about what objectification really is. It's not actually looking at a person as an object, or I mean, it can be, but for me, it was about, it's not just seeing a woman and thinking pussy or something like that. It's this inner self-centeredness. For me, it was, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just like me, going through their entire lives like this. And the power of having another man explain to, like, the empowerment it gave me to understand this myself was an amazing thing, an amazing revelation. So, with regard to, I mean, and Thordis brought up this idea of the monster myth, that people think of rapists as monsters or criminals as monsters, and then you see, some of the time, or a lot of the time, they're just normal people. And I think I could see when I was younger, I would not treat women well. I never did anything like this, but I would not treat women well. And I never thought I was doing anything wrong. It was just because it was so organic to think and act in this way, to not take their feelings into consideration, and to just do things and to act impulsively. And so I guess it would be easy to say, if I described how I behaved and how I acted, it would be easy to say that's a bad person and to dehumanize them, and to say they're a monster or that kind of thing. I don't really want to compare myself when I was younger to these things, but I hope I'm getting my point across, that these are normal people, and a lot of the time they might not even realize. They're not thinking, I'm going to... I don't know. It's a really touchy subject, and they're not necessarily monsters. They're oftentimes human beings who... I don't know. This is a difficult thing, but I think the empowerment that can come from men educating other men is a vital tool in the arsenal of, battling rape culture and promoting equality and empowerment of women. So I can understand why she would be doing this. In which case, but whereas other people might not understand. So I hope I got my point across. It's a really difficult topic to explain. Maybe I should make another video on it someday. I'm not sure, but so that's my point of view on that. I can see the power in the benefit in doing this, and I guess another thing I can talk about is the whole idea of forgiveness. Can you forgive someone like this? People who do it are obviously a much greater risk to reoffend, all these kinds of things, but I don't know, if somebody is truly remorseful and truly acknowledging of the mistakes they've made, like, I believe people can change and people can be forgiven, and I think most people can agree with that on some level. A lot of the controversy tonight was he never went to jail, he never served his time. But I don't think that negates the power that his words and his education can provide. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that subject. If feel free to leave comments, or if I know you, talk to me about it. And I'd love to have more of a dialogue on this. This is a really fascinating subject, and it's a subject with really grave, real-world implications and consequences. So it's very important. Please watch the episode. It was fantastic. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave this episode here about... Oh, I'll mention one last thing. I guess it's about revenge porn, and this is just a comment that Thordis made when they were all discussing revenge porn and the idea of victim blaming and all these kinds of things. And one of the things Thordis brought up was... I keep saying Thordis as though I know her, but I hope it's not impolite. She's saying we don't want to discourage people from not sending... We don't want to discourage people from sending, intimate pictures of themselves to people they trust. We want to discourage people from breaching that trust. And I think that's a really important distinction. So, yeah, you should educate people and warn them against the possible risks of, when you're sending out these sorts of videos or texts or pictures. But it's about changing the culture so that it becomes untenable to actually share these things, I guess. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode. It was a really wonderful episode. Please check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.